I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, this is going to be an interesting show tonight on any number of levels. I'll tell you why in a second. But first, of course, the standard Mark I Model 1 introduction, and that's this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, right here from the palatial and sumptuous SHR Network studios, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, 2 miles from the veritable belly of the beast, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the capital of California, Sacramento, or on the Shatheads, or Sackheads Shat Show tomorrow night, Shatramento, Fornicalia. Sure you got that. By the way, you need to listen to the Sackheads radio show, or Sackheads Against Tyranny radio show tomorrow night. I'm going to be there. I'm pretty sure Sackhead Clint is going to be there. In any event, you got to belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back. Dink is going to be your bartender tonight. Tonight he pours with the best stuff, and then the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right, which means that you can listen to this show at shrmedia.com. Chat is open right now. Already 4 people in chat. And also, if you want to watch the show, you can go to the SHR Media Facebook page, broadcasting and simulcasting live there right now. And or you can go to the SHR Media YouTube channel, where we are live simulcasting video. If you want to see what the fat guy looks like, or if you just want to listen, that's okay. Because if you want to listen and chat, here's the thing. You may go to YouTube, you may go to Facebook, and I always get people that chat there. And I ask, because I cannot monitor those areas, I stay in the SHR Media chat room, which is open right here. And so thanks to Murray Brockman, thanks to Traveling Cynic, thanks to Mike, thanks to Whiskey Dale, thanks to me, which may be actually me because I haven't logged in yet. I was behind the power curve again tonight. First, it is Tuesday. It is May 22nd, the year of our Lord, 2018. And tonight, for the first hour, my very special guest is going to be Kari Baxter Donovan, BZ's very own East Coast political goddess. She writes and blogs and has great articles, and we're going to chat with her tonight mostly about what she has written, but also the Chinese apparently have condemned the United States to "May you live in interesting times," which is, my understanding, the nice way of the Chinese to say, blow me. And so, yes, we consider ourselves, well, wait, I know who it is. And there we go. Now let's see if it's actually on and if it actually works, because theoretically I should be speaking to Kari Baxter Donovan. I just introed you, as a matter of fact. So without further ado, is this Kari Baxter Donovan?
It is, yes. Hello.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I was going to tell everyone a tale of grief and woe, because I'm sort of a one-eyed Jack tonight. Did I just see White Mom? But no, what happened is I woke up this morning. I'm seeing only out of one eye. I woke up this morning with conjunctivitis. Have you ever had conjunctivitis? Yeah. It's terrible crap.
Oh, yeah.
So the story that I was going to relate was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when I was working for the sheriff's department that I labored for 35 years in the jail, because all sorts of flotsam and jetsam comes through the jails, as you would imagine. There was one, I swear to God, this guy was probably 18, 19. Well, he had to be 18 at least to get into the jail, because we only kept the keepers there. And he went into the drunk tank. He was he was an alcoholic at the age of 19. Number one, that begs a whole bunch of questions, like how do you fuck up your life to that point so that you're an alcoholic at like 18 or 19, whatever the hell he was. But
horrible.
Oh yeah. But back then, we did things a little differently. Today, everyone, and I mean everyone, in every jail across the fruited plain wear blue latex gloves when coming in contact with prisoners at any and all times. Well, fat, dumb, and happy, all of us jailers back then, we were deputies, but we were in the custodial area at the point. You do that, you go through custody early in your career. And so I happened to grab this guy, took him down the hallway, and launched him into the F tank for the code in California for 647F, which means drunk in public. So we have an F tank, which is padded so that people sober up. You're going to be in there a minimum of 4 hours. If it's a busy night, you could be in there for like 10 hours before you get your butt kicked out. And you get 849 bead, which means basically you sober up. They don't even issue you a citation, and they release you. Well, this guy, at this age, 18 or 19, only upon further examination did I see, after he plopped himself down in the drunk tank, that both of his eyes were slammed shut and covered with green. I won't even hazard a guess as to the word, but basically, after having done my backgrounding, he had one of the worst cases of conjunctivitis I'd ever seen. Well, let's see. Let's let 2 days pass. After 2 days, BZ wakes up and can barely open his own eyes, but he's young, so he has to go to work. And I worked in control that night, which was in control of the jail, all the telephones, telegraphs, all the elevators, etc. And I had to squint because my eyes were likewise covered with green, I don't know, fill in the blank. And so it was hearkening. Yeah, it was hearkening back this morning when I woke up and could see just fine out of the left eye. And the right eye is just slammed shut. So I am a functioning.
I'm so sorry to hear this. Oh.
I'm a functioning,
you sound good.
Single-eyed guy. But
you sound good. You get all your vocal cords going, but I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. All I can say is it was hell driving here, because one side is just nifty peachy, and the other side, it looks like you're looking through the windows that cover a bathroom. You know, that are obscured, and you purposely can't see into the bathroom. That's what looking through this right eye is like at this time. But enough about me. What about you? How are you doing?
No, I don't. I'm good. I can see out of both of my eyes.
That's a plus. That's a huge
I'm
plus.
doing pretty well tonight. Let's see. No, I'm feeling all right. No health issues. I've been running around all day, so I'm not really quite sure how I feel because I forgot to think about me. Been racing after kids all day. But I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I'm glad to be talking to you, so I'm happy.
Outstanding. Oh, we have Simone. Simone just jumped into chat, so we got a lot of people in chat tonight. Great to see, great to hear. Okay, now, first things first.
All right.
And yeah. I always screw this up, and I don't know, well, I do know why. I do know why. I'm going to give a little bit of a background about you because you write currently at populistwire.com.
Yeah.
And so those are primarily the stories that I want to go over with you tonight while you're here. And
cool.
The introduction, because I like to reintroduce you so that folks who may not have heard you before on either the podcast or if they listen later on, in the podcast kind of thing, they know who you are. And for populistwire.com, it describes you as Kari lives in North Carolina with her children and dog Scout. She is an ex-communist organizer. I look at that every time, I swear to God. And to me, now it says it reads ex-community organizer. Okay? But
Yes,
the wiring in the brain, always when I look at that, it reads to me, you're an ex-communist organizer.
Well, now hold on, because I always say that they're communist organizers, but I was not myself a communist.
A communist.
So,
nor have I ever been, Senator.
Right. In my case, I'm not a communist, but any other community organizer is a communist organizer. So, you're just saying the right thing.
It's just
I understand.
My brain needs
They are
rewiring.
communists,
Yeah,
so they are communists.
I'm like a bad truck tire. I need to be retreaded. That's all there is to it. You're an ex-community organizer, a homeschooler, and a music junkie. Okay, stop right there. I've never asked you this before, but I will now because it just taps my brain. What's some of your favorite kinds of musics and or groups or singers, performers?
Okay, so, well, I love all music. I'm a little weak in the country, but I do like some country. And when I like country, I like it big time.
Okay.
But I don't know a lot of country music. But mostly what I listen to is probably blues.
Oh, okay.
I love Matis Yahoo is who I listen to the most, and the Grateful Dead. I'm a Deadhead.
No.
And then, yeah,
Get
I am.
out!
True.
Really?
No, I totally am. Oh, I'm a Grateful Dead freak. I love the Grateful Dead, and I love reggae, and I like old school raps. I mean, I really like just about everything, but I would say who I listen to the most is Matis Yahoo and the Grateful Dead.
Okay, now the first person you mentioned, I've never heard of them. And I could not, if my life depended on it, spell their name. So spell that name. Something Yahoo.
Oh, no. Okay, Matis Yahoo, M-A-T, and then my autofill comes in, and, because I'm dyslexic, so I get things all kinds of turned around.
Me too.
But he's basically, he's Jewish, but he's gone through all the different sects of Judaism. So he was Hasidic, he was Kabbalah, he was all kinds of things. And basically, he does kind of reggae and in all different forms of reggae, and some rap. And I just really love his stuff. It's spiritually based, in Judaism, but it is also just really cool and fun and funky. And he's a little, he did a lot of drugs, so you can tell by his music.
Okay.
Matis Yahoo, M-A-T-I-S-H. I don't know. That's not right. I can't spell. I'm dyslexic. I get it all backwards.
Wow. Okay.
That's why I say I put the sexy in dyslexia.
But he's a blues player, is what you're saying.
Well, he does some blues. He's kind of like a Trombone Shorty, who is another one of my all-time favorites.
Okay.
He does his range is all over the place.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Her butt.
yeah,
It's
beatboxing,
She looks like
So you like
Anyway.
rap?
rap guys' girlfriends.
Yeah,
who
you like
understand
rap then.
Rap guys.
I do know that
I
song.
only
Yes,
talk
I
to
love
her
rap.
because
Well, I'm
she
from
looks like
Detroit,
a
so I
total
like
prostitute.
all kinds
Okay?
of rap
And
too.
her butt. It's just so
I like big butts.
And I cannot
Cannot
lie.
lie.
Okay, enough of that before somebody gigs me for playing that. Here's
Yeah.
I got a nastygram from YouTube last week who said that I played 8 seconds of one of those themes that goes dun dun dun, that emphasis like that. So someone somewhere somehow has some kind of an algorithm that when over the internet 8, and actually it was shorter than that, it's about 3.5 seconds because I timed it, but they said it was 8 seconds. So somewhere on the internet, something heard me play 3 seconds of dun dun dun. It wasn't that exact one, and YouTube sent me a nastygram. How does that happen? Okay, so I disposed of it. Okay, because I didn't want
Better
that.
living through technology.
I
right.
didn't I didn't want a nastygram again from YouTube because I already kicked us off for 60 days one time. Sons of bitches.
Right. Yeah.
So how did they do that? 3 seconds, and they found it. That's insane. Okay, well, let me finish the thing. We talked about, okay, let me stop. What is your favorite, do you have a favorite group besides the Grateful Dead?
No, I don't. Because
No.
I have 100 favorite groups or 200 favorite groups. I'm a junkie. I'm like an addict.
Okay. All right, so
I drink, on occasion, but music every day, all day long.
So
I'm addicted.
You must be plugged into Spotify, etc., all the time.
Yes, all the time. There's music going all of the time.
Okay. It says you write about populism, economic nationalism, and cultural Marxism. You call yourself a gonzo journalist after your writing hero who once said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. And, of course, you already referenced this. By the way, that quote was from Hunter S. Thompson. Very good writer. We talked about him last time, as a matter of fact. And as you said, you put the sexy in dyslexia.
I do.
That's nice. I like that. You have, and first I should emphasize, you write for populistwire.com, just like it says, all one word, populistwire.com. And you have a ton of stories that I would like to play. One of the first ones that I'd like to go over is about Judicial Watch. Well, there's been a ton of stuff in the news, and I'd like to play for you and then get your opinion. This is, I think, Judy Woodruff, and I believe that she's on the PBS NewsHour. This is Representative Jim Jordan talking to PBS's Judy Woodruff, and he's talking about how the FBI essentially is falling apart. And Representative Jordan says this.
You said today that you are, quote, sick and tired of the runaround you say you've been getting from the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, that you want a second special counsel appointed. Why?
Because Attorney General Jeff Sessions has stated that only under extraordinary circumstances do you have special counsels. Well, how about the fact that 5 of the top people at the FBI have been fired or demoted and reassigned?
Listen to that. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. Comey's gone, McCabe is gone, but I didn't realize that the top 5, that there were 3 more of the top 5 individuals at the FBI who are gone. That's unprecedented.
James Comey's been fired, former director of the FBI. Deputy Director Andrew McCabe's been fired. There's actually a criminal referral because he lied 3 times under oath, according to the Inspector General. Deputy Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok has been demoted and reassigned. FBI counsel Jim Baker has been demoted and reassigned. FBI counsel
Strzok.
Lisa Page has been demoted and reassigned. 5 of the top people demoted, reassigned, and in some cases fired from the FBI. If that isn't unusual, if that isn't extraordinary, someone define to me what is. And these 5 people, while they were working in the Obama administration, ran the Clinton investigation and then launched the Russian investigation into President Trump and his campaign. They're the ones who did the dossier. They're the ones who maybe were involved in what we've seen, this possible informant issue. So for all those reasons, it warrants a second special counsel.
I completely agree. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, when I think I heard that was from today, right?
Right, exactly.
I heard it. I was going to say I heard it today, and I wasn't able to get any writing time to really dive into that. But thank God for Jim Jordan and his Freedom Caucus. And I guess I had known about all of those people being reassigned or fired, but I didn't put it. Putting it down in one group. Wow. That's impressive.
It is absolutely.
Really saying, look at this whole group of people. Oh, yeah, wait, Baker, right. Forgot about him.
Yeah, it has, as far as I know, it has never occurred before.
And probably just about anything that Obama and his lackeys didn't ever occur before. Look what Hillary's done. Isn't that her whole MO is she keeps pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable in society out further and further and further. So, of course, these things have never happened before because look at who's behind them. These communists. They're communists. I was on a tirade today on my Facebook page, just going off on what a bunch of communists they are. But it's mind blowing. Now, I don't know about the second special counsel, because I'm sort of in the camp of the guy in Utah who's investigating. I don't know if there's going to be a second special counsel, but that's what today I was so busy running around, I didn't get to check into the that's coming from the 12 pages of discussion, right? From the Republicans. Is that what that?
Well, yeah, in general, but
okay,
I would have to.
So I'm a little behind on that.
I would have to be in agreement with you. I don't think we need a special counsel, and truly, I don't really think we're going to get one. But I like the fact that he's pushing, and he's doing what it says at the top of my blog. I am pushback. I exist now because I've been dragged kicking and screaming, number one, to vote for Donald Trump, who certainly was far from my first choice. But the more that you assault Donald Trump, the more that I'm pushing for this guy. I've never been in this situation before. I've never been placed in this kind of a mood for politics ever before. I truly don't think the country has been here before in this kind of a situation. And folks are really, really, really starting to turn off politics. And at the time when I myself am ramping up in politics, because now, especially come November or whenever local primaries or special elections may occur, people, conservatives, I should say, have to show up.
Well, here's some good news. So I have on two fronts that conservatives are going to show up, and we're going to get behind them, and we're going to keep blabbering on, and we're going to be Jim Jordan, and we're going to keep talking to them until they say, okay, fine, I'm going to show up. Stop being pushed back on me. I get it. But the hits that my articles are getting tells me that people, you might feel that people are turning off politics, but they're reading and interacting online more, I think, than ever before. When I look at the stats for my articles, it blows me away how many people are reading my articles. Now, and it's not because I'm a rock star. It's just, I think, because people are really hungry for this intrigue. It's better than a Tom Clancy novel, and I think some of that might be a little orchestrated. And if it is, I'm not going to complain about it, because I think kabuki theater, hey, if it works for the Democrats, it can work for us. Get those people to the polls, right? So I like political theater, so I'm not going to complain.
It is.
But I think some of it is a little.
It is theater of the absurd. It's kabuki theater. It's all of that wrapped up in one. Well, let's start tonight. We got about 6 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. Let's start with your most recent article, which you kicked out about 4 hours ago, and it's entitled, the headline is, Judicial Watch Calls DOJ's Probe of Hillary a Sham, Doubles Down on Call for Criminal Investigation. So after having written that article, and I see Judicial Watch involves, by the way, folks, if you don't know, Tom Fitton, and whenever he happens to be on the news channels, I always enjoy what Tom has to say, because
Tom Fitton, he's an American hero, and I'm so lucky I had a chance to meet him through Civitas here in North Carolina. Had him at one of their conservative leadership functions, and so I got to hear him, and then I got to meet him afterwards. And he is just a wonderful, open person. You can approach him and talk to him, and I just really like that. So personally, I really like him. I think he's an American hero for what he was doing, and he was really trying to encourage us as activists to get our own, Freedom of Information Act lawsuits going, because that's really, what he does. Excuse me. But at the time when he was speaking, so it was a little over a year ago, and I was so excited because he actually reposted it on his timeline like within the last week, his discussion in North Carolina. I'm like, I was there. That was awesome. Anyway, at that point, he was very downbeat. he was very downcast. He really was
Okay.
kind of feeling beaten, and he was basically saying they're going to come after Trump and they're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and he's probably not going to win. But we need to keep showing up, and we need to keep pushing and using every platform we can to talk about these issues. And so I see him as instrumental in what's going on. And there's a lot of people, I think, who are instrumental. Jim Jordan, and my favorite, Steve Bannon, I still say is instrumental. I think that there are a lot of people doing a lot of things, pushing back. But Tom Fitton has it so well organized with that Judicial Watch. If you go in and you look at one of his press releases, oh my gosh, there's so much information. I love writing about Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch because he really knows what he's doing. He is such a reliable source for us.
Here's one thing that I learned last time after listening to you, and you mentioned the fact that you wonder why more people didn't do this. You receive a lot of promos and announcements, official announcements from all sorts of arenas in the political world, and you hoover that stuff up like nobody's business, and you've made some rather startling discoveries out of announcements just like that. Another guy, by the way, that I admire is Jay Sekulow of ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice. I think Sekulow and his group, they do great work, too. But let's go back to Tom Fitton. Let's go back to your article. Let's see, because we have about 3 more minutes before the break. After the break, though, just beware. I do want to ask you about Steve. So don't think that I've forgotten.
You know that I'm
him.
always excited and happy to talk about Steve Bannon.
I know. But let's delve into this article, the newest one today. So what did you happen to notice, or what is Tom Fitton doing these days that you wrote about?
Well, you know what? There's something on the site, and I was asking them to update that. I actually think I wrote that last week, but it shows up as today because I actually wrote. Since then, I've probably written 10 or 12 articles.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to go back.
Let me start it for you then.
So he was talking about the emails, I think, right?
Right, the Huma Abedin emails.
Huma Abedin, and I think that he's the one who originally turned that story over, right? If I remember correctly, because I think about 6 months ago-ish, did I write? Oh, okay, that's right. I was writing about how he was saying that he wanted a criminal investigation into, they had gone and discovered all of those emails because of Huma sharing a laptop with Anthony, her husband, Anthony Weiner. And so he is the one who has really been pounding that he wants a criminal investigation into Hillary. And he brought that up again last week when it came out that Anthony Weiner's indictment had been unsealed. And on that day, he went back again and he said, I want a criminal investigation into Hillary's email scandal, because he says that within all of that classified information and all of those things that Huma had been collecting on that laptop, that those are all of the emails that Hillary lied and said she didn't have access to, or she had lost, or whatever her thousandth excuse was.
In the article,
I think that he's the one who really started the buzz about that.
In the article, it says, Fitton said that Weiner was involved in, quote, stuff that made these classified documents at risk. We know that. Why was Hillary left off the hook? They left this classified info on the Internet equivalent of a public park bench, said Tom.
Park bench. That's why I love why I love Tom Fitton. He just throws stuff like that.
That's a killer quote. That's
Isn't it?
Gold right there. After that, now let's see. I'm going down by the top. What's your most recent article that you remember? Because now it indicates about 11 hours ago at the top of your section under Populist Wire. The other article that
on my Facebook page, I'll put them all. I just wrote an article about Al Green, who admitted today on C-SPAN that any Democrats who they get in their blue wave, that they're going to go after impeachment for President Trump. I think that was my last article that I wrote today.
Okay. Hold that thought.
And then I wrote another one.
Hold that thought. We're going to go to a break. And when we come back, I'd like you to give us maybe a Steve Bannon update. And then following that, I'd love to hear about your insight into Al Green. So, folks, we are listening to the East My personal East Coast political goddess, Kari Baxter Donovan, live here on BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yeah. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know, I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You are listening to the SHR Media Network. One-Eyed Jack is operating the board tonight. I can see the damn board real well, but can I read my computer off to the right? Hell no. So I hope that I don't make other mistakes like I did earlier in the first segment where I called Kari Baxter Donovan, who is our special guest tonight, a communist organizer, when in fact, no, she's a community organizer. Good God, BZ, wise up, mister. Okay, I went to your Facebook page, and I did find your most recent writings. So whoever's updating populistwire.com, they need okay, I was going to recommend a throat punch. That's a little severe, so I'm going to back off that.
I'm going to chill on them because I think both of them are with their girlfriend on vacation.
Okay.
So I'm not going to do any throat punching at this moment.
All right.
I'm going to kind of chill.
Okay. Well, see, that's where I like to go to find out all the newest stuff that you've written.
Yes.
So I learned something today, which is, no, don't go there. Unless I want to read your intro. I'm going to go to your Facebook page because that's where your most recent articles are. And so, okay, I found the one now about Al Green. Now, tell us about this Al Green guy, because I'm familiar with the Al Green that went in the 70s, who was the soul singer, and this ain't no Al Green like that guy. By the way, Al Green, folks, if you, I hesitate in saying this, go to your favorite search engine and put in Al Green, and then prepare to recoil in horror when you see this guy's face. Oh my God.
He's a bit furry looking.
This has to be...
Al Green is
He's the ugliest guy in politics. My God.
Right. Well, I try not to pass judgment on his
I
personal
will.
looks.
I will. It looks like somebody...
I'll try to keep to the facts
poured butane on his face, lit it on fire, and then tried to put it out with a track shoe.
Well, all right, but his politics are also ugly because he really is a communist.
Yes.
Okay, so he's a Democrat, he's a communist. And this guy is the one who keeps, like, I don't know how many different times since he tried the impeachment thing already, at least 2 or 3.
Right.
So he keeps getting knocked down, because we haven't impeached President Trump for losing to Hillary, winning over Hillary. Let's see, Hillary didn't win, and so he wants Trump impeached. Okay, so
that really is it.
On C-SPAN. Yeah, no, he keeps going back and forth, and he's just, he's outraged. And so in my article, I found it very interesting, just because I felt like picking. I just felt like, I wanted to throat punch him. But so what I found was there are some good quotes. I love to go dig in there, and I found one. He's talking about Ramadan, and that's okay because he's going to stand with the Ramadanians. And then there's one in Spanish, and so he's going to stand with the Mexicans, but he's not going to stand with the Americans who voted for President Trump. So what he's basically saying on the C-SPAN show, Washington Journal, was basically, and it's in the article because I always like to put the clip in if I can find it. He's basically saying, any of these victories that they get, if they can win the House, they're going to impeach Trump. And I spoke with, remember Bob Barr?
Yes.
I spoke with Bob Barr, months ago.
Okay, why does he sound familiar? Refresh my memory.
He was very active during Bill Clinton's impeachment, so he was all over the place.
Okay.
Then I remember, I think that's probably where I had first heard his name. So I used to read a lot of his stuff, and I called him up and I asked him about impeachment, and he was basically saying, if they get the House, they're going to impeach. It doesn't have to be for a legal reason. That's what we're up against. That's where they're going.
Yeah, they don't care.
And so this Al Green creature, this person, I'm going to watch my mouth and say he basically at this point, like it's every representative's right to basically storm up and down all around about impeachment, which is just that shit crazy. They really have no idea that we are a republic, and I've been on this thing for the last couple of days. I've been on it for a year. They think that if they say that we're a democracy, then all of a sudden we are. It's like magical unicorns. We're a democracy. No, we're a republic. This This is a representative republic. So, what do they care about? We're going to impeach. They have the right to impeach our chosen representative. This is how crazy they are.
And it doesn't require any lawful reason. They're just going to do it. That reminds me, by the way, Kari Baxter Donovan, do you remember good old Harry Reid from Nevada?
Oh, yeah.
You remember how he said that Mitt Romney, his financials were out of order and he was a terrible guy and he wouldn't turn in he wouldn't reveal his taxes, and Mitt hasn't paid taxes, and he finally said he was told he was a liar, but he actually came out post his retirement and said, yeah, that was a lie, but it was every bit justified. It was justified because I knew it was going to hurt him.
I think we need to sharpen up our sticks and start chasing people around.
Hell yeah.
Why are you voting for these people? Why are you voting for them? That's what I think we need to start having a national conversation. Why don't we go to our neighborhoods and ask them, why did you vote for that beep, 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 who doesn't even know that we're, that's the standard. That's the standard of what you want in your representative. Someone who says, yeah, I lied because because it was good for. So this Al Green is basically saying, if we win the House, Trump's gone. We're going to impeach him, and we don't have to have a reason. So just because we want to, because he didn't lose Hillary like he was supposed to. So that's why we're going to crush the blue wave, because every single person is going to get out there. As election time gets closer, and they're going to get a whole bunch of people, and they're going to go to the polls and vote.
We have to. We absolutely have to. The luxury of sitting back and not doing anything, that is dead. It's dead and gone. It sounds like a trite thing to say, because you could say it forever. This is the most important election. These midterms. These coming midterms are really going to be some of the most important, because keeping the House, keeping the Senate is absolutely critical to shooting down, and I don't mind saying this at all, shooting down Obama's insane policies for the past 8 years. His policies need to be destroyed. Say what you will about the man. I never really said much of anything about Obama himself. That's fine. He's a guy, but I hate his policies. His policies were terrible. And that's been proven for the first year of Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, how America is actually managing to come back. And it's under his leadership.
And I've been saying for years over here at the North Carolina GOP, you can go ask anybody who's listened to me, complain, and I was going to say a bad word, but I'm not going to moan and complain.
You can say it. You can say it.
You might be a bad influence on me. Maybe if I drink some more whiskey, then I'll start swearing.
It's late night.
But so my thing is this black unemployment. If you get that number down, I think you will increase the vote, the conservative vote in the black community. And then when I keep saying once he reaches 20%, it's all done. Democrats are done forever. They're never going to be able to fix that. And that's why they have to flood, the country with some new bodies, some illegal aliens to vote for them. Because, and I've been saying as a job developer, I was a job developer, a social worker, right, worked with felons. If people could work, they'd prefer to work than live off of the government. Not everybody, but many.
Okay.
And once they're not dependent on the government anymore, they're not going to vote for the Democrats.
Well, we already know that the number of blacks employed under President Trump going up. The number of Hispanics employed going up. They're having employment numbers better than they've seen in literally decades.
Which is why the Democrats are panicking and trying to figure out how can we let felons vote, and probably Trump will probably even win over the felons. How can we get Hondurans to vote? So, that's what they're reduced down to.
Hell yeah, we need MS-13 to vote.
How can we get MS-13 to come in to vote for us?
Everything that leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots are trying these days, it's like water off a duck's back. And, you know, when Donald John Trump said in 2016, I've been wiretapped, what he meant to say was surveilled. He doesn't know the proper language. And that's true. When there are people inside his campaign, well, it's true. When the FBI and the alphabet agencies are after him, well, it's true. When he says Clapper lied, it's true. When he said John Brennan lied, it's true. When he said James Comey lied, it's true. It's coming to be all true. It's water off a duck's back. Here's more stuff from Stormy Daniels, by the way. Her lawyer now faces big scrutiny after that firm was ordered to pay $10 million. The guy's name is Michael Avenatti. His law firm was ordered by a judge to pay $10 million to an ex-colleague. And Avenatti was interviewed on all the news shows, all the left-wing news shows, 147 times in 10 weeks.
It's just completely outrageous. But that is what...
That's twice a day.
The propaganda media has been, and they need to have their nose just rubbed in it like, you know, the dog crap that they've created. This is what you've done. Yeah. This is who you are.
It's
and
not
I
working.
have been sending notes to President Trump. I think I deserve a White House
Bingo.
credential.
Bingo.
Those people act like animals. They're yelling and screaming at the President of the United States of America. They can't even act proper. And they don't even represent people who are putting out any type. There's no news in anything that they're putting out. Oh, but it's been that way for how long? We've been complaining about the media for 20 years.
Well, yeah. But it's gone absolutely overboard.
Now they're just out. It's just completely out. They're total propaganda. And it doesn't have to be based in truth at all, like Harry Reid.
Yeah. Or Al Green. See, here's the thing with Al Green, though, to get back to that, is, okay, number one, they have to retake the House. So let's for a second theorize, say, okay, they've taken the House. And let's say they squeak by an impeachment vote. Well, it still has to go to the Senate. And the Senate is going to be held. No matter what anybody says, the Senate is going to be held by the Republicans. Well,
if you have senators like my senators here in North Carolina, Burr and Tillis, then I wouldn't count on those two to do anything to help a Republican. And I've met both of them.
Oh, that's
and
great
looked in their little beady eyes in North Carolina. And, you know, so I think that that's why pretty much people assume that, you know, he'll be removed from office as well, because, like, we're going to count on our senators.
Well, I think you also have to have at least a minimum 2/3 vote of the Senate to do that as well. I just don't think the votes are there. Number one, I don't think they're going to get the House. And number two, I don't think they're going to get the Senate. Because the deal is, at this point, especially, oh my God, because I forgot this into the mix. Trust me, Kari Baxter Donovan, the East Coast political goddess of the Bloviating Zeppelins, Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, right here, live and direct in the SHR Media Studio. I am Kari Baxter Donovan. I am going to get to Steve Bannon in just a moment.
I talk about him.
I will get
I haven't gotten to talk about him for so long. I'm just like, I just want to talk about him.
Well, what the hell? What the hell?
All right.
Let's do it right now. What's up with Steve Bannon? He's disappeared.
Okay, now, first of all,
I don't read about it.
I have to preface this by saying I don't actually have like a personal connection with Steve Bannon.
Okay.
So as much as I hate to admit that,
he's on your Facebook page though. You've got great photographs of him. Hey, speaking of which,
I have met him.
Speaking of which,
I did photograph him.
Can I back up just for a second? I've gone to your Facebook page, and I had to find it and then bookmark it in this computer that I can't see out of my bad right eye to my right. However, earlier today, I did go to your Facebook page, and you have a ton of photographs in there. And I just want to say one thing. Yeah. Obviously, you're a DSLR carrier, because I think you've got a Canon something or other. I couldn't read what it was. But I have to say, you take really good photographs. I like your eye. I like your sense of composition. I like the way that you use depth of field when necessary, how you limit the depth of field and expand it. So as one person who's been taking photographs for a long time, I just want to say, as an aside, I admire your skill, your photographic skills. I just had to say that because I saw that today.
You know what? I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That is exciting. I have two Canons. I've got a D5 and a D6.
Okay.
Or is it 6D and 5D? See, I'm dyslexic. I don't know. D6, D5, 5D, whatever. I have a 5 and a 6, and a whole bunch of different lenses, and I just kind of goof around and play around with it. And I was able to photograph Steve Bannon 2 times or 3 times, and that is thanks to Ken. I love him and his exceptional conservative network, and Black Americans for a Better Future with
right. I saw that meeting.
Group of people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I have met him. I did meet him, and I knew I'd have about 10 seconds to talk to him. So I quickly said, because I was nervous, I quickly said to him, "Hi, Steve Bannon. I am Steve Bannon fangirl." And he said, "I have a fangirl?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." And he said, "Hey, I like fangirls." And I said, or he might have said, "Hey, I like that," or something like that. And then I said, "Then we're off to a good start." And then somebody came up and wanted to get their photo with him. And then I photographed him at another event, and I was trying to get an interview. I really do want to interview him on China, which I'm fascinated with, and his economics and stuff like that. But I wasn't able to actually talk to him in person, although I did photograph him and videotape him and sat 3 feet away from him for, I don't know, an hour and a half. And then I met him again, I think. Anyway, so, but I don't actually have his phone number or anything. I can't actually call him.
Damn!
That's just in my fantasy. But I think I know him like the back of my hand because I have been following his career for a very long time, since back in Andrew Breitbart days.
I'll tell you what,
So,
if I ever come across his phone number and I can get it and somehow it crosses the BZ desk, I will send it to you.
Yeah.
You
Awesome.
will be the first
I would
person
never call him. Are you kidding?
that I will
He would-
send it to.
Well, I could look at it anyway and just be like, I could call up Steve Bannon anytime I wanted to and just talk to him like, hey, what do you think about, blah, blah, blah. Hey, what's going on with the polls? Hey, and I just like his range of topics that he talks about. So, but the thing that I do want to say about Steve Bannon is I do feel like very often, we have a spiritual connection up here because we're just thinking about the same thing sometimes, polls, campaigns, news, I don't know. So whatever I'm telling you is just purely based on my fantasy. So I just thought I'd be honest about that.
Okay.
But
Honesty.
did you notice?
Perfect.
He's back on the scene again. And
No, I
knew it.
haven't.
I knew he was coming back.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I've noticed a definite dearth of stuff about Steve Bannon. But if you say he's back, then let me in. What's he been doing or what's he been saying?
So I don't want to come off as a stalker. And I actually didn't stalk him as well as I should have because I don't really know. But what I do know, is
Stalker.
One day I was watching and President Trump said, and my team came back from China. And then I'm on my Facebook, and all of a sudden I get this Breitbart article, and it's Steve Bannon talking about China. I'm like, he's still on his team. He's probably on his China team. And then he's talking, I think if I understand correctly, he's in Italy right now. And Italy is at the moment going through a populist movement. Now, Steve Bannon talks about populism.
Right.
Right. And so he was, his biographer, Keith Knopfler, wrote about that. So that's been something that I think, from what I understand, is a common theme with Bannon, is populism. And I really think that he's kind of the architect of the whole MAGA movement.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know that for sure. I just kind of suspect it because it seems like it kind of goes along with the things that he's talked about. But, that when that whole thing came down with the book and that whole kabuki theater of I'm mad at Steve Bannon and I'm going to exile him to China where I need him to go anyway because he's going to talk about Chinese things to the Chinese. I flashed back to I cannot believe that Steve Bannon would throw in the towel on President Trump after what he did. Remember those days?
Yes.
Was that January or something?
Yeah.
And I said, no, this is the guy who made the movie about Sarah Palin. So he wouldn't just up and throw everything away to backstab Trump because he wanted some more attention or something. So I noticed that when I went and I searched on Twitter, Steve Bannon, all of a sudden he's back in the news again on Cambridge Analytics. And the media was putting out a story, which I thought was kind of funny. Steve Bannon was trying to suppress the black vote. And I'm thinking to myself, I was in a room with a whole bunch of black people, and he was talking about economics, and there weren't a whole lot of other white people in the room. Perhaps nobody else knows about that, but he toured the country, I think, doing that kind of thing. So why people don't know about that, I don't know. I just put in Steve Bannon every once in a while to see, like, is anybody talking about Steve Bannon? I do sometimes like to torment leftists. So
no,
I'll find
I have never found that.
Sometimes I just feel like I just want to, want to throw punch somebody.
I don't believe that.
I'll find somebody talking about Steve Bannon, and they'll go and they'll see that I'm Steve Bannon fangirl. Oh my gosh! And they'll send me pictures, and they'll go crazy. Of course, I love it. It kind of energizes me. So I think I did that, and I saw that they were talking about Steve Bannon in the Cambridge Analytics, his connection with that, which I don't really know if I understand that at all, and his remarks on China and Italy. So,
we got about 4 more minutes before the top of the hour break. An hour goes, boom, like that, quick, like a bunny.
It does.
I'm going to ask you this. Well, number one, I'd like to ask you if you could hold over off the top of the hour break, if you could hold over for maybe another 10 or 15 minutes, because there's another article
totally, I'd love to.
that I'd like to get into. The next one, the second to the most recent article that you've written. And it deals with, I'd like to get into that now, as a matter of fact. You wrote an article that says, Grassroots Brat says voters will revolt over Dream Passage, so representatives revolt against Ryan. Okay, if you can, to use a word that this will be the first time that I've ever used this word on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Kari Baxter Donovan, BZ's East Coast political goddess, can you unpack that for me?
So what's going on right now is that Dave Bratt, who is, by the way, an economist, so I think that he has got some cred. And also, he won that victory in 2014 with total grassroots support. I have tried to dissect his campaign through a number of different sources, and basically it was just grassroots. It was just telling them, it was populism and telling them what he knew that they wanted to hear. So I think that he is, he's got some cred on grassroots too. And so he's basically saying, listen, Ryan's trying to drag us through this, Chamber of Commerce baloney and get us to vote for, their open borders. And by the way, I wrote a humongous long article about the Chamber of Commerce, the bad guys that they are. And so he's basically saying, Ryan, who's not up for going up for re-election, is probably going to get some cushy lobbying job with the Chamber of Commerce,
right,
is trying to get them to pass open borders, amnesty, and they're revolting against him. And they want Jim Jordan to go in and be the speaker. They want Ryan to step down. Like now, get out of there. And Ryan is does he have a beard this week? I don't know. Just a beard.
This week, right.
Or is that only, is it hunting season yet for Ryan? So it's like Ryan is coming back again with his open border stuff. And so he's, Bratt had quoted there saying, the voters are going to revolt against us. And I just thought, see, this is what's happening is that Ryan doesn't care. He doesn't want to get reelected. So what does he care that he's going against the people? And Bratt is saying, then fine, then we're going to revolt against you. And I think there's a Sarah Palin post in there from Twitter where she's talking about that there's a revolt in the House against Ryan. And the House Freedom Caucus is really stirring up a lot of stuff. And they're going after Ryan.
So who would you see for speaker? There were 3 people that I thought were at least a little interested. One was Kevin McCarthy, and I wouldn't want him as speaker at all, period, end of statement. Another was, and I didn't know that Jim Jordan was interested, but the other one that I was thinking of was Steve Scalise. Out of all of those,
I
do you think they'd be leaning?
Too, right.
Do you think they'd be leaning any particular way?
Well, I think that McCarthy's got some problems. Like, I think that he was caught having an affair with my representative, Renee Elmers, a couple times.
Not good.
So I think that he's out. What?
Not good.
Right. So I think that, he's like, he can't, I don't know that he could do that. Scalise, of course, would be a great candidate, wouldn't he? Because, he would get a lot of the sympathy vote. And I don't know much about his record. Of course, what he overcame is amazing and, good for him. But I think my pick would be Jim Jordan because of the whole, House Freedom Caucus. And this guy has just been a tenacious warrior for America with this going through, this whole deep state, a secret society. Ooh, one of my articles that I really wanted you to read was my secret society's JFK.
Okay.
How this is basically the secret societies that took JFK down. That is what Trump is going through now.
Okay. Hold that thought.
So I would choose.
Hold that thought, because I got to go to a break. But, however, since you've agreed to come back, we'll spend about 4 minutes doing some promos here at SHR. And when we come back, then I've put all the other stories aside. Now that you've said that, I want to hear what you've written and what you think about a secret society and JFK. To me, that sounds pretty intriguing. So, folks, we are talking to BZ's personal East Coast political goddess, Kari Baxter Donovan, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios. It's the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights. Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yeah. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, a good, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I just like listening to this. Folks, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are back for the third segment going into the second hour of the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct on the SHR Media Network. We're talking to the very own East Coast political goddess, Kari Baxter Donovan, who writes at populistwire.com, and that's where you can find all of her good articles. Now, she kind of teased us a little bit, kind of teased old BZ a little bit with a story about a secret society and about JFK, and perhaps how something similar to that is occurring now with Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. So, okay, spill, Kari. Now, what's this deal about a secret society and JFK? You got me curious.
Okay, so one thing that I love to do is I love to take all of the leftists and their little stupid words and their little stupid ideas and just turn them back around and use it on them.
Okay.
You know, because it's like a rule. It's a rule for radicals. You know, use their own stuff on them. So I like to say intersect, just because that's, you know, I have co-opted their word and I'm just going to stick it back up in their face. So my article is Trump intersects JFK's deep state. The CIA blows lid on government secret societies. So okay. I was looking through the last batch of JFK documents that had been released, I don't know, probably about 3 weeks ago. And I was picking through them, and I was just kind of, filing through them, and I saw that there were these I don't know, like summaries of people talking about secret societies.
All right.
Right? And then I went, wait a minute. Wasn't that like literally what was on one of those, when the lovers were writing back and forth about their secret society? Wait a minute. Isn't that what JFK was talking about in his speech? He literally says secret societies. And so I just opened up a window and I started dropping these little things in there. And I realized that, and that's what the article is, where these ideas, these concepts are intersecting. This idea of, the secret societies, quote unquote secret societies, is running through all three of those. You know, I'm very linear, so I like things that make lines.
Okay.
So that concept has run through. And then I pulled up his speech from President Kennedy's speech from 1964.
All right.
And it is, the very word secrecy is repugnant. The entire thing, that was the speech I think that many people say is why they killed him, was the speech was talking about, you know, the things that were going on in the FBI, the CIA. So I find it absolutely fascinating that President Trump is the one who is releasing these documents to the public that are showing us that our government hasn't been what we thought it was, you know, since the 60s. Who knows? I don't know when it started, but these secret societies of people who go into this law enforcement have really been instrumental in overthrowing our representative republic. Because it's like with every president, they bring our choice, our presidents, down to their knees. They either give in, or they're willful, like Obama, or they try to kill him, like, JFK. And Trump has so many things in common with JFK. His economic plan, a rising tide will lift all boats. That's JFK. And so that's what this article is about. And in it is someone who had basically said, they're trying to overthrow Trump. And, he's had to face assassination attempts. We already know that. So there's my article. Just what they have in common. Of course, I had to throw in Breitbart in there. I still feel like Andrew Breitbart was killed. Now, I know people who were close to him at the time say that he died of natural causes.
Okay.
But it's just so weird. So I introduced him into the article. Another person who was trying to take on, I think, the secret societies, the places where these kind of megalomaniac characters are hiding and stealing away our representative republic and our liberty. And so definitely Andrew Breitbart would be one of those people. Of course, Steve Bannon, here we go. Steve Bannon was instrumental in Andrew Breitbart's popularity, but that's a whole other thing. So anyway, there's that article.
Let me ask you this very salient question, and I have my answer. I'm curious if you have yours, and I have a very specific reason for giving this particular answer. But my question to you then, because we're talking about JFK, do you believe there was one shooter or multiple shooters in the JFK assassination?
So when I was in Texas, I went to the Dealey Plaza, and I went up to the building, and I looked out the window, and you know about approximately where the car was,
right?
And you're looking out the window, and it's like, okay, so there's a guy who was literally hanging out the window and was holding his rifle at an angle in order to make that shot. I don't think so. So walking around, I remember feeling like I just sensed. I had no reason, I don't think, to feel this way, but I sensed that the shooter was near the railroad tracks, because there's this set of railroad tracks where somebody could stand in the grass and run off. And it just, at that point, I thought, I don't believe that the storyline of this guy hanging out a window, because he'd have to hang up the window and hold his gun off to that. I don't believe that this guy did it. And so I don't know how many there were, but I would guess there were 2 or 3. And they were in front of the car. On the ground.
I would go for a minimum of 2 shooters, because we know the first round missed. And I know for a fact, having been a range master, that the Mannlicher Carcano rifle is a queer little rifle from Italy, not altogether that incredibly accurate, even though I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that particular model was scoped at the time. But even that is no guarantee of accuracy. In terms of accuracy, he wasn't really that far away. They claimed that Oswald was a Marine sharpshooter. Marine sharpshooter is like meh in the Marines. A sharpshooter is not the topmost award that you can get as a rifleman in the Marines. But the reason that I would suggest the first round was from the rear, and it's all predicated upon what I look at when I see the Zapruder film. Kennedy's first shot, or the first shot to hit Kennedy, causes him to move forward, and both of his hands come up and begin to clutch his neck, which is a natural reaction, and especially the laws of dynamics as he's moving forward indicates to me that that's a shot from the rear. Now, after that, as he continues down past Zapruder, that big sign gets in the way. A microsecond after he is revealed past that sign, then it is clear to me that a very high-powered rifle hits the president from the front, and that's why you have to look at the laws of physics. His skull was all across the rear deck of the Lincoln Continental. It always works this way. There is a smaller entry and a much larger exit in any human wound, period, end of statement. That is never reversed. In other words, an entry wound is larger than the exit wound. That never happens. I've watched it. I've seen it. I've been in a gunfight myself. I have seen wounds. I was in homicide. I've done and witnessed, not done, but I've witnessed tons of autopsies. So I know the make and meaning of wound ballistics and dynamics. That was a bullet fired from the front of the president's automobile. Now, can I empirically say that it's from the grassy knoll? I don't know. I really have no indication, but I submit that there were a minimum of 2 shooters, one from the rear, one from the front. The one who shot from the front caused the most devastation and definitely killed the president. Now, if no other shots had hit the president except the first, would President Kennedy have lived? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea about that. But the second wound was clearly unsurvivable, period, end of statement. So that alone, just because of the ballistics of what I see on the Zapruder film, and you can show me as much written hogwash and bullshit about a single shooter, I don't believe it for a second. I go by what my eyes see and what my training, education, and experience has indicated in terms of bullet dynamics and wound ballistics. That don't play.
Well, and if you go and you walk around in the area where it happened, it's so clear that it couldn't possibly have happened the way that they said that it happened.
Yeah.
And it's frightening, actually, because then you start to realize however many there were, whatever happened, the government is lying. And if the government is lying, they're covering something up. And if they're covering something up, it's because they're guilty.
I didn't believe the Warren Commission for a moment when it came out. Now, at the time, I was too young to try to, put any of this stuff together. It was just a terrible time, and I can clearly remember being in school, and it came over the announcement, all children are going to go home, and then we went on the bus, and we went home, and I watched the President Kennedy, the procession down Pennsylvania Avenue. And I still can remember that stuff to this day. But in terms of shooters, not one.
Horrifying.
The Warren Commission was bullshit, period, end of statement. I don't care what you say. Now,
no, and looking through the release of the data, if some of it's so old, you can tell that the paper is brittle and you can barely read some of the things. And it's just, I had to stop myself from reading for a while because it was getting overwhelming. It's a very emotional, I wasn't even alive at the time, but it's always been very emotional to me. The one that hit me the most was JFK Jr. And he was a Democrat, and I was a Republican at the time. But I was so struck by his death. He died
he died in 1999 in an experimental plane crash.
Yeah, and you knew that Hillary was behind it. We're going to find out Hillary was behind that.
Oh, well.
I knew at the time. I remember the minute I heard, I thought Hillary did it.
Okay, now we're going to put on our tinfoil hat just for a moment. And now I'd like to explore that with you, if I can, just for a minute or so. Why is it that you think that Hillary had anything to do with JFK Jr. or with John Jr.'s death?
Okay, so I think just linear thinking. But who would benefit the most from him dying? Hillary would have.
Well,
because she wanted that. He was going to run for Senate. She wanted that Senate seat.
Oh, stop. Wait. Okay, then my memory fails me. In 1999, was he going to run for a Senate seat?
Yeah.
Was he going to run for the New York Senate seat?
Yes, for the seat that she won.
Okay.
And I knew that because I was, I think at that time I was reading Free Republic a lot. So he had already made statements. He had that magazine, George Magazine, and so everybody knew that he was going to run. He'd already made statements that he was going to run.
I'd
And the next thing you know,
that.
he ends up dead. And people had already known. Like, there's a list of people who had been Arkansided who had died, from having connections with Hillary. So probably, in my mind, it just went, think, it was Hillary.
Arkansided. I'm going to have to remember that. I like that. Arkansided. Okay.
Which isn't funny. He's right. I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. But at the same time, it's horrifying how many people have died associated with Hillary. So anyway, that's my mind. That's how my mind works. And so I immediately thought Hillary because she wanted that seat because it was unsettling. There was something very wrong about that. That wasn't just a regular old plane crash.
I've got a final article here that I'd like to go over with you. I'd like to read the article. It's not written by you, but it is current. It just occurred within the past 2 days, I believe. Okay. And I'd like your input on this. This happens to be from the Washington Times, but anybody and everybody that was a media outlet had a story about it, and that's this. Trump gets the FBI, Justice Department, to probe claims of spying on his campaign. President Trump got FBI and Justice Department officials to open a probe of the agency's alleged spying on his 2016 campaign, the White House said Yesterday, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and FBI Director Christopher Wray agreed to the expanded investigation at a White House meeting called by Mr. Trump, who escalated a feud with the federal law enforcement agencies over questionable conduct pursuing a Russia probe into the 2016 presidential race. Quote, based on the meeting with the president, the Department of Justice has asked the Inspector General, it's the Inspector General now, who has been asked to do this, has been asked to expand its current investigation to include any irregularities with the FBI or the DOJ's tactics concerning the Trump campaign, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a statement. So a whole bunch of questions came to my mind. And let's see, we've got about 8 minutes left. A whole bunch of questions came to my mind. The first one that came to my mind is, do you believe it for a moment that the FBI and the DOJ will direct the IG to spear off another point of investigation essentially into themselves? Now, I have to say that I was hearkened by the investigator, the Inspector General, and his soon-to-be-released report. I think there may possibly be some very salient and important things that are going to come out of that. But my first thought was, why or how did the FBI and the DOJ acquiesce to something like this? And number two, do I believe them? Well, I kind of have to believe them because they've directed the IG to do that. And I do believe in at least a portion of the apolitical nature of the Inspector General. But when you first read that, did you have any first thoughts, Kari, about the president said, I want you to go and start investigating this aspect?
Well, what I thought when I heard that was that he was responding to the letter that Meadows, DeSantis, and Jordan sent him saying that they wanted him to do that.
Okay.
So he was responding to their letter. He didn't come up with this on his own, although I think that he has the legal authority to do that because he's been chosen by the people to represent, to uphold the Constitution. And the DOJ and the CIA and the FBI, they're not in the Constitution. So didn't Congress invent, and I should know who invented the CIA because it's actually like my kid's dad's side of the family, who is the Donovan.
Well, yeah.
So
Wild Bill Donovan.
The CIA confuses me a little bit.
That
yeah,
comes
the CIA,
from the.
I know stories about the guy Bill Donovan. Okay, so but the FBI and the DOJ were created by the Congress, correct?
The FBI, no, and the DOJ, no. Which is why some people submit. If you ever happen to listen to Sackheads Clint is not what you'd call a promoter of the FBI, because if there's one thing that he continuously waggles his finger at me about, because I did work for the FBI, is that they're not constitutional. That the FBI is not a constitutional element, and therefore he believes that they should be eliminated. The only actual federal law enforcement agency that is constitutional are the U.S. Marshals. And I was a U.S. Marshal for a while, too.
Right. Okay, so, I love that Clint. By the way, I miss him. When I heard his voice, I was like, hey, I listen to Clint some more. I miss those nose jokes. Anyway, what I was thinking was that Trump was responding to the letter that they sent, and that he had the authority to point them in the direction of investigating. I do believe that the IG,
I believe so,
who is Horowitz,
right? Michael Horowitz.
And I do believe that the IGs work very hard to be impartial and to get the truth out. From what I've read, I don't have any reason to not believe that. So I was thinking, hey, we're getting somewhere finally. That's what I thought.
Let me, if I can, throw this out here. Let's see, we got about another 4 minutes till the bottom of the hour. And number one, thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate
I love it. Thank you.
The extra time that you granted me. So I very much am appreciative of that.
My pleasure.
Do you, the final question for you, Kari Baxter Donovan, tonight would be, what is it that you see maybe coming or revealed when the IG report does get published and it becomes public itself? What do you see some results?
That IG report, and I have a feeling I'm going to be kind of disappointed, because what I really want to see is I want to see Hillary and Obama hang. But anyway, I think what's going to happen with the IG report, from what I understand and what I'm trying to figure out, is he's basically, this first report that's going to come out is going to be the next one that comes out is going to be the first in a series, and that one deals with just the email scandal. So it doesn't deal with Uranium One and all of the other things that might really be what makes her hang.
Yep.
But so with the Clinton email, I think they're basically going to say that the DOJ, the FBI were breaking their own rules. And so if they're breaking their own rules, this is me thinking, if they're breaking their own rules, then they have to be disbanded and perhaps started all over again, like the first thing that we listened to. Basically, when Jim Jordan was saying somebody needs to look into this mess, because you got 5 of your top people are now, out of the game. So I think that the IG report is basically going to be another pillar of, we need to disband them and possibly start all over again.
Here's what I would suffer in law enforcement had this occurred to me. If it were discovered that under oath I lied in court, I could still keep my job potentially. They would instigate an internal affairs investigation of me, because there would be a complaint that I lied in court, and I would suffer whatever consequences were to occur from the lie. I would likely keep my job, but here's the chilling effect that would occur. I could never be trusted to testify in open court again, meaning that I would be severely limited in the job that I could do. So whatever the job I was doing, I would have to be moved aside into a position where I would never be put into a position where I could be subject to testifying in court. Now, that having been said, then further, I would be put on a list where everyone would know that this is a guy who lies. I can't be trusted. And then what that would do, especially with regard to public defenders and defense attorneys, is they would go rummaging in my files, all of my past cases, look at each and every one of those cases, open up an investigation, and determine if whether or not having lied about whatever it was, then that calls into question each and every case that I ever handled or went through my fingers where I testified in court. It would cause all of that to come into question. Will something like that happen to the FBI or the DOJ? You want to hear my answer? No, I don't believe it will.
You're going to say no.
I don't believe it will. And yes, you're absolutely right. The first series of revelations will be with regard to Hillary Clinton's bathroom homebrew server. And I think that the IG is going to come down fairly hard on Hillary, and I think he's going to come down fairly hard on Comey, and perhaps even Loretta Lynch, who was in
which could be
the AG at the time.
Where we go back to Tom Fenton, who is saying, okay, let's have a criminal investigation then on Hillary, because we need to get her at least. Even if we can't take apart the FBI because of all of the mess that it's going to create, then at least we need to get Hillary. And Tom Fenton is saying we have everything, because she left it all out there on the park bench. And everyone has it, and we all know what's in there. And then I also read another article about the NYPD, who had, I think that was a QAnon article, that the NYPD had all of these things. They knew it was on that laptop, and some of them are such horrific crimes, et cetera, et cetera. So we've all heard that soundbite, I'm sure. So if it's not to take apart the FBI, at least there are people who are out there push back on at least getting Hillary. Because I think that many people were caught up in her schemes, maybe some people who didn't even necessarily want to go along with it because they were scared to death that they were going to get killed.
Okay.
And that's a reality. I think that's really a reality for a lot of people who had to work in the government. If you didn't do what Hillary wanted, you could end up Arkansas-ed.
Yeah, Arkansas-ed. I still like that. Folks, we have been listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's East Coast political goddess, Kari Baxter Donovan. Trust me, we will have her back. If you want to read her, go to Populist, Populist, wire, WIRE.com. Or if you're a member of Facebook, go to I've Learned. See, Kari, I'm teachable. I'm trainable. I've learned that if you want to find the real stuff that she's written most recently, go to Kari Donovan's Facebook page. So, Madame, thank you ever so kindly for being on tonight.
I love it, and I hope you feel better.
I know. Thank you very much.
Get that eye cleaned up.
I can't see crap.
Oh, be safe driving home.
Okay.
And thank you so much for letting me come on. I love chatting with you.
Another one-eyed Jack. Hey, we're going to have you on again, okay? So
totally. Awesome.
Thank
Big
you.
Hugs. Feel better.
Thank you. Folks, that was Kari. Take care. And we're going to take a break. I'm going to come back, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about communists? Communists? No, we don't have any communists in the United States. Do we? No.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. shrmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the final segment of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com if you want to listen to the show and or partake in chat. Most of the chatters have decided to go away because right now on the East Coast, it's 38 minutes after the witching hour of midnight. This is a late night show. So on the far left coast where I am, well, shoot, it's only 9:38, but everybody's pretty much all gone seepy by on the East Coast. I had one show that I started 2 hours earlier. And I thought that I would be enamored of starting 2 hours earlier, but it just was kind of weird to show up here in the studio 2 hours ahead. And I also discovered that I'd have to put up with drive time traffic here in Sacramento because that means that I'd have to leave at 5 o'clock, which is right in the middle of rush hour in Sacramento to get to the studio, because this isn't my bedroom. This is an actual office. This is an actual studio. And it's nowhere, it's about a half hour away from me. And it requires that I engage in drive time traffic once again, and I'm kind of a retired guy, and it's still very bright outside, and it would be more convenient for people on the East Coast. I know that. Still kind of debating whether or not I want to change the hours. So that's just to let you know, that's still kind of up in the air. There was an article written by a guy named Joe Jarvis, and I found this was, it's important now because everyone is talking about socialism and communism, and yet these people have no idea. The people that are talking about it, leftists, Democrats, the American media maggots, Gen Zers, the millennials, they're talking out their asses because they have no real idea of what communism was or what it did. Now, about 3 months ago, there was a celebration, if you could call it that, of 100 years of communism. 100 years of communism happened to get this: 100 million people killed. That's that's about a third of the United States. 100 million people killed due to communism. And of course, that wouldn't be due to Germany. That would be because of communist countries, Stalin, and all those lovely people like him under the writings of Marx, Karl Marx. So Jarvis wrote an article called The Top 10 Goals in the Communist Manifesto, Accomplished in America. And we all know that plenty of stupid ideas kill people, but one man's stupid ideas have killed over, as I indicated, 100 million other people. Karl Marx happened to be born 200 years ago on May 5th. If you ever heard the word May Day, now you have an idea about that. So May 5th, if you're from Mexico, they call it Cinco de Gringo. Communists celebrate May 5th in terms of it's Karl's birthday. And this past May 5th, he celebrated his 200th birthday. And despite the utter failure of his communist philosophy and practice, the cult lives on. Still, people want to try again. This time, they're going to get it right. And Joe Jarvis must have been listening to me, because what I've been saying about dictators and socialists and communists is each new one thinks they can do it better than the last guy. And that just ain't right. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels originally published the Communist Manifesto in 1848. It laid out the beliefs and action plan of the Communist Party. The goal was to get communists of every nationality to rise up and unite to overthrow their capitalist oppressors. Little did they know their words would be used by the likes of Stalin and Mao as justification for over 100 million murders meant to supposedly move society forward. In America, the goals of the communists have crept their way into society with little fanfare. Many people have no idea that public schools, the graduated income tax, and even a central state-controlled bank like the Federal Reserve were tenets of the Communist Manifesto. The points are boiled down in one section of the manifesto to a list of 10 main goals. These are the goals, in Marx and Engels' own words, followed by an analysis that Jarvis does of how deeply they have seeped into the United States governing structure. I hope you're sitting down. Number 1, abolition of all public land and application of all rents of land to public purposes, also known as property taxes. Can you really say you own land if you must pay the government every year in order to keep it? You fail to pay your rent, and they will eventually confiscate your land, air quotes, your land. This money is then used for, air quotes, public purposes, like public schools, just wait for number 10, as Jarvis writes, and police, who will remove you from the government's land if you fail to pay your rent. And if the local government can fine you for keeping a front yard garden or backyard chickens, Do you really own the land anyway? It sounds like the proletariat traded capitalist oppressors for government oppressors. The federal government owns outright, listen to this, 28%, over a quarter of all the land in the United States, 640 million acres. This includes the Bureau of Land Management's 248 million acre turf used to control or oppress political dissidents like Cliven Bundy. The BLM is also responsible for subsurface mineral resources in areas totaling 700 million acres. That means they control almost 3 times as much land as they own. Each state government owns an average of 8.7% of its state's land. The source claims the Fed owns over 31% of the U.S. land mass, which brings the combined state and federal total ownership to almost 40% of all the land in the United States. And let's not forget about eminent domain, where the government can just take your land for, quote, public use or public benefit with, quote, just compensation. If the compensation isn't just, simply take the most powerful government on earth to court. Wait, courts that they own. I'm sure you're going to be treated fairly. Number 2. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Even after the latest tax cuts, the federal income tax rates range from 10% to 37%. According to the Wall Street Journal, the top 20% of income earners in the U.S. will pay 87% of all income taxes this year. These people who earn $150,000 or more account for 52% of the income earned in the USA, but will pay almost all of the income taxes, 87%. The top 1% of earners, the evil bourgeoisie making over $730,000 a year, will actually pay over 43% of all income taxes this year. So 1% of earners who make 16% of the country's total income will pay 43% of the total income tax. It sounds like way more than their fair share to me, but the communists won't be satisfied until everything is owned by the state. Number 3, abolition of all right of inheritance. They want to fleece the rich one more time when they die, even though all that wealth was taxed already as income or capital gains. Estate tax, or death tax, is one of the most egregious oppressions of the federal government. Joe Jarvis, I completely 100% agree. There is a hefty exemption. The first $11 million is not taxed. While that means few typical people will be affected, it still fits with the communist strategy of demonizing the rich. And every dollar over that exemption is taxed at 40%. Now, when you think about it, $11 million is not so much money when you're talking about a business, even relatively small family businesses that might have passed down through inheritance. So if a business is worth $15 million, the family of the deceased would owe $1.6 million. If they don't have $1.6 million hanging around, they might have to dismantle a business in order to pay the taxes. That would mean the loss of good proletariat jobs and a hit to the economy. The same could happen to a piece of land or estate that has been taken or has been in the family for generations. State-level estate taxes add additional costs, sometimes with lower exemptions, but the communists are smart. They demonize the people they rob, so no one feels bad for the rich, air quotes, because they'll have plenty left over when the government is done with them, although that too could change. Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. Immigrants and rebels. Let's start with the exit tax. Why don't you just move out of America if you don't like the taxes? Well, America taxes its citizens worldwide, even if they don't live or work in the USA. Well, okay, why not renounce your citizenship then? Well, that's one option, but actually not free. In fact, the U.S. confiscates a serious percentage of property from immigrants. It's called the exit tax. Now, it gets complicated, but basically the government is going to tax you on your net worth as if you just sold all your assets. Now, if you don't have the liquid cash to cover that, you'd actually have to start selling assets, property, stocks, etc., in order to pay the exit tax. Of course, now you would be taxed on the income or capital gains first, and then you'd have to pay the exit tax with what's left over. The good news is that you'd have less overall net worth to be taxed upon your renunciation. Okay, but again, a big part of being a communist is hating rich people. People with less than $700,000 of capital gains in their net worth are much less affected by the exit tax. So let's turn to confiscation of rebels' property that affects the poorest proletariat, civil asset forfeiture. This is often used against poor people who can't afford to defend themselves in court. The police simply steal property or cash that they suspect was involved in some kind of crime without having to prove anything. You have to prove your innocence if you want your car, your house, or your cash back. So if cops think that a wad of cash came from selling drugs, it's theirs. If they think your car was bought with the proceeds of drug sales, maybe because they found an ounce of weed or some baggies, they can take your car without charging you with the drug dealing. Police seized over $50,000 from a Christian rock band that had collected donations for an orphanage. Between 2001 and 2016, this is a quote, more than $2.5 billion in cash seizures had occurred in the nation's highways without either a warrant, a search warrant, or an indictment. And that's not even counting the more than $3.2 billion the DEA has seized since 2007 without filing civil or criminal charges. Just having cash is a pretty low bar to be considered a rebel. Then again, what would we expect from a communist doctrine? Number 5. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. I wonder if today's communists are aware of this one. They can't possibly think the Federal Reserve helps the proletariat, yet that's exactly what the manifesto describes. Some people might disagree with the Federal Reserve or that the Federal Reserve is state-owned. Technically, it is a private board, although board members are appointed by politicians. I suppose in that sense you could call it more fascist than communist. The government doesn't own the bank owns the government. The Fed sets the interest rates, prints money, and finances much of the debt of the United States government. Without the Fed, it would be much harder for the government to control the people, the homes they buy, the loans they get, the interest on their savings, and even how much of that savings is robbed through inflation. Number 6. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. The FCC, the FTC, the DOT, the FAA, the TSA, the CBP, it's an alphabet soup of communications and transport regulators. They regulate phone lines, the roadways, air traffic, rails, mail and package delivery. This is nothing new. Around the same time Marx was writing the manifesto, Lysander Spooner was doing something productive with his time. Spooner started the American Letter Mail Company to compete with the U.S. Postal Service. He undercut their prices and provided better customer service, but he was fined and cited for breaking laws which protected the government monopoly. He was forced out of business way back in 1851. The government doesn't quite have control over the internet, but they did create the conditions to allow a handful of companies control access to the internet. The NSA monitors every communication, and the Department of Homeland Security commissioned a database to track all journalists and media influencers who mention the DHS. Oh, like me, right now. Customs and Border Protection performs unconstitutional searches at the border, whether you are an American or foreign. Stop. By the way, searches have occurred by ICE as far away as 50, 60, 100 miles from the border for no reason, without a warrant. And you submit. And of course, you can't go out in public without running the risk of being harassed by local, state, and federal police. You don't have the right to travel without justifying every action to a police officer, while they often get off scot-free for murder. That's a different story for another day. but that's what Jarvis has written. Number 7, extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing of cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. The state has certainly dabbled in factory ownership, like the GM bailout, if you remember that, in 2000, I think that was 2008. They control utilities like water and power, and they have certainly subsidized their fair share of business from oil and solar panels to sugar and corn. We can refer back to number 1 now to see just how much land the government controls, often under the auspices of improving soil and protecting wastelands. Then there are plenty of government contractors, which are basically the same thing as a government-owned company. If 100% of their revenue comes from the government, they are not a private industry, not a private company. This is especially prominent in the defense industry, which is where the term military-industrial complex comes from. And then think about the roads the government contracts out to build. The government spends about 34% of the GDP every year. That is a significant percentage of the economy which the government owns. 8. Equal liability of all to labor. Establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Yes, the Communist Manifesto proposes enslaving all those who are unwilling to work. Now, it might not seem like the U.S. government forces people to work, but you have to make money just to park your ass on a plot of land. Local governments want property taxes, which means that you have to make a certain amount of money just to have a place to live. Otherwise, you could conceivably save up for a piece of land, and once you buy it outright, you'd be done. But even renting has the built-in costs of property tax. And the fact that the government claims the authority to tax you on everything you earn basically means that you have a liability to labor for the government if you want to labor at all. Most of us cannot go through life without earning something to pay for necessities, but we can't just earn what we need. We must earn way more than we need because the government is going to take a huge chunk of our income. We tend to think about taxes as a percentage of our income. But what about as a percentage of our time? The government forces you to work as a slave from about January through April every year. In a typical career, you'll spend in total more than 14 full years working as a slave for the government. Number 9. Combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries. Gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. The government helped create factory farming by regulating all the small-scale producers out of business. Reason reports that the USDA regulations have forced small slaughterhouses to close in favor of large factory-style slaughterhouses. This might sound like a good idea at first, but consider that when one infected animal makes its way to a slaughterhouse, it can contaminate so much meat. Having many slaughterhouses distributed across the U.S. meant that if any infections were localized, it affected far fewer people. Plus, when the slaughterhouse is local, it's easier to know the owners and see the conditions for yourself. The animals are raised closer to home, also providing more opportunity for market oversight of the process. No hiding away from the consumers on a vast gated factory ranch. The U.S. government has long subsidized large crop producers, which makes it that much harder for smaller farms to compete, and it started with the Farm Bill in 1933 and continues on to this day. What we get is cheap but unhealthy products, and even though the products on the shelf look cheap, we already paid for them with our tax dollars. The problem is, I don't want to buy unhealthy things loaded with high fructose corn syrup, but my money will pay for that crap whether I like it or not. Then I have to spend my money on healthy items that are more expensive because they have to compete with subsidized products. That's where the government incentives for factory farming have got us. And finally, number 10. Free education for all children in public schools. Abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. Combination of education with industrial production. This may be 10th on the list, but it's number 1 in ensuring that all the rest fall into place. American communists got this goal in place just 4 years after the Communist Manifesto was published, with Massachusetts enacting the first compulsory public education law in 1852. After that, it was only a matter of time until the population was indoctrinated to believe whatever the government taught them. The book, Teen 2.0, Saving Our Children and Families from the Torment of Adolescence, delves into depth into the history and injustice of compulsory schooling. It was designed so that the state and corporations could work together to train an obedient workforce with the public footing the bill. The point was not open minds and a desire to learn. The aim of the education was setting students up for whatever mediocre to low-paying jobs the industrialists wanted them to fill. The communists succeeded in getting exactly what they wanted out of American schools, and today we see the growing gap between what people learn in schools and what skills they actually need for good jobs. The communists have got the American education system stuck in a stagnant philosophy of industrial labor. Of course, they did it with supposedly the best of intentions. Sounds like a good idea to save kids from dangerous work. But in the process, they also robbed children and young adults of their autonomy and choice. They forced kids against their will into a government institution and set the course for their entire lives. And that's the most important lesson that the communists want to teach in schools. It's all about obedience to government. Karl Marx is like the anti-Midas. Everything his philosophy touches turns to shit. Is it any wonder that America is stagnating? You cannot grow with a communist philosophy. It doesn't take into account the beautiful creative independence of individuals. It treats people like cattle. It robs people of the rewards of their labor. I rue this day, writes Joe Jarvis, 200 years ago. You don't have to play by the rules of the corrupt politicians, manipulative media, and brainwashed peers. And I have to ask you, does that sound even remotely like things that are occurring today, now that you're a little bit more aware of what the Communist Manifesto was and what it said way back in 1848?
Monsieur has unlocked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines, providing thrust you can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team. Thanks to Kari Baxter Donovan for being on the show tonight. And thanks to you so kindly for listening tonight. Thank you for being in the chat room. Thank you for listening later in podcast. Because frequently this stuff is way too late for everybody. Don't forget, tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel, Sackheads Against Tyranny with myself and Sackheads Clint. God bless, take care, be safe. Come back tomorrow night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.